interrupted an important experiment in progress.
I am Chucky.
Pennywise the ants.
Coming to get you, Barbara.
I want to play a game.
Hello everyone, Josh Myers here, and welcome back for another movie review, and today I am going to be continuing on with my Halloween franchise review series, and today I'm going to be taking yet another look at Halloween 2018.
Happy Halloween, Michael.
Rated R.
Halloween stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, Andy Matichak, Will Patton, Virginia Gardner, and it's directed by David Gordon Green. The plot of Halloween is that Laurie Strode returns after having survived that night that he came home, all the way back in 1978. She has since then been traumatized by that night. She's also have prepared herself for the ultimate confrontation with Michael Myers. Will she be able to overcome her trauma and put the boogeyman to bed? Now, before I get into this, I would like to say is that I did review Halloween 2018, I think twice. No, wait, actually I just only reviewed it once. I reviewed it shortly after the film came out, all the way back in 2018, which I reviewed it on my main channel, Blood Moon Productions. And I've mentioned before, unlike a lot of people, I didn't went completely gaga over this film like a lot of people did when it first came out. I did have a lot of criticisms with the film, stuff I would have changed, but you know what? I wanted to rewatch the entirety of David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy, the Blumhouse trilogy, whatever you wanted to call it, especially by tonight, because tonight, like around midnight or whatever, Halloween Ends premieres on Peacock. At least I think it premieres on Peacock tonight, which I will be watching and doing my review of that tomorrow, and I'll try to get that posted some point soon, but probably next month, because I'm doing my 31 Days of Halloween review series, so you will see my review of Halloween Ends dropping next month. I decided I wanted to rewatch this new Halloween trilogy and see how well, because I wanted to see how well Halloween Ends would tie into the other ones, and if Halloween Ends will be a good and proper closure to this new trilogy and to the original film, in a sense. For me, I have actually seen reviews, no spoiler reviews, thankfully, for Halloween Ends, and I've heard so many stuff, mostly negative, but hopefully I will end up liking it, because here's the thing, I at first liked Halloween 2018, I will defend Halloween Kills, so hopefully that'll be the case with Halloween Ends, you know, that I really enjoy it. Hopefully I enjoy it more than Halloween Kills. That'll be another one I'll defend on this channel, is Halloween Ends, so hopefully that's the case. I don't want to go into the film wanting to hate it. So tonight is the night. I will be going to see Halloween Ends on Peacock once it starts streaming. I'll also watch Halloween Kills today. I'll probably watch the extended cut of Halloween Kills because I've never seen the extended cut. I might do a video talking about Halloween Kills again, but this time it will be a video on the extended cut. It will be like under the My Thoughts series, where I discuss all my thoughts on the extended cut of Halloween Kills and whether or not the extended cut is worth it or not. Also, too, I did got this lovely Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers hat. Got at Walmart the other day, so that is pretty cool that I found that. So, and I thought it would be pretty fitting for this review. Now let's move on to my positives, because I actually do have a decent amount of positives here. I actually do like the story of Halloween 2018. It's essentially a basic premise, because we have seen this done before with Halloween H2O, where Halloween H2O was essentially, took place 20 years after the original film, and was a direct continuation of the original Halloween 2, though. And Laurie, they brought back Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, and she's dealing with, the trauma of what happened during the events of the first two films. everything, and she ultimately has this final confrontation with Michael Myers. You know, it's kind of a very similar setup, which was really good in Halloween H2O, and I think it's really good in Halloween 2018. But they do some different stuff with the setup than from Halloween H2O, actually. Because in Halloween H2O, Laurie, like, they don't really focus on Laurie's trauma all that much, whereas here they focus on it a lot more, actually. She is totally traumatized by the events to the point where she has been preparing ever since after that night for Michael to come back and to try to get her so that she could try to stop him and kill him. But she almost needs that to happen, you know? So much so that she has pushed aside her loved ones. She trained her daughter, Karen, played by Judy Greer. She trained her as a young girl to essentially prepare and eventually fight off Michael. Karen has resentment for her mother because of that, to the point where, because of how Laurie is, Karen has isolated herself from her mother and also has isolated her other family, like her husband Ray, played by Toby Huss, and her daughter Allison, played by Andy Matichak. In fact, you see stuff like, you know, because Allison, Laurie's granddaughter and Karen's daughter, really wants to just have the family be together. It's like, why can't my grandmother show up for anything, and like, why is my mother trying to keep me away from my grandmother? She goes behind her mother's back just to be with Laurie and everything. Laurie has essentially become a complete nutcase. She is you know, so convinced that Michael Myers will come after her at some point, and she will not stop until he is dead in the ground. Like until he is buried in the ground. That's when she will stop. Yeah, that's caused a lot of family problems for her. In fact, she even, you know, been through 2 divorces, like 2 failed marriages, lost custody of her daughter Karen, and she also has a rocky relationship with her granddaughter Allison. Laurie Strode is all kinds of messed up in this movie, and it really showcases, you know, how that night affected her and affected her negatively, which is like a lot more than what they did with Halloween H2O on that. I give props for David Gordon Green and the writer Dan McBride for including all that, because I think that's interesting. The most we got from the Halloween franchise of how, you know, something like that affecting Michael's victims after a night like that is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, where after the incident, Laurie Strode is just dealing with so much mental problems, you know, along with, you know, because she's living with the Brackett family. She is, the Bracketts are also dealing with the trauma of what happened back in the first Rob Zombie Halloween. So that's the most we got to see of that in this franchise up until Halloween 2018. So Halloween 2018 does take a very similar approach in regards to that, but does it in a different way than what Rob Zombie did, and also does it in a different way than what Halloween H2O did. In fact, Rob Zombie's Halloween and Halloween 2018 explores more of the effects of trauma with Michael's victims than Halloween H2O did. That is all very interesting, and I really dug the story in regards to all that. There are some twists and turns in the story, which I will get to in my... I'm not sure if I would call them negatives. I think they're just honestly things I'm mixed on, rather. I really dug that. Another thing I really dug are the characters, you know, for the most part. The one thing I will give credit to Danny McBride, who wrote the film, is that he really does a good job of trying to make these people seem like real people, like people you would know in your kind of community space, you know? A lot of their interactions with each other is realistic for the most part, and you really do get to care for most of these characters for the most part, for what little screen time they have. Honestly, I didn't want anybody to really die. I liked the new characters to the point where I didn't really want anybody to really die for the most part. Obviously, I liked Laurie Strode. I thought, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis probably gives her best performance out of the entire franchise with Halloween 2018. Like, there's so much emotional, and she gives such an emotional performance, and honestly, there's certain moments with her that I think is some of the best we've seen of Jamie Lee Curtis in this franchise. Also, too, I really, for what I was able to see of these characters, I really dug her granddaughter Allison, played by Andy Matichak. Again, I don't know what else she was in, but I do know some of the things she was in after Halloween 2018, which I think Andi Matichak does a pretty good job with this character, and essentially she's kind of like the modern interpretation of what the Laurie Strode character, like the Laurie Strode caricature is, you know, kind of this, you know, innocent girl, this very smart girl. She's essentially our final girl at the end of the film. From what little I saw of her, I really dug Allison, and I really dug the performance by Andi Matichak. And I really dug other kind of small details too, like for example, Allison's boyfriend, Cameron, is actually the son of a character from the original Halloween, Lonnie Elam, which if you don't know, he's a very obscure character in the original Halloween. He's the one that, like, he was the little kid that was bullying Tommy Doyle, and that, saying that the boogeyman's going to get you and all that. Also too, he's also the kid that tries to go up to Myers' house, and Dr. Loomis tries to scare him, essentially being like, hey Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
Chicken, go ahead, Lonnie. Go in.
Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
Cameron is the son of Lonnie from the original Halloween. We don't see Lonnie in this one. We don't see him until Halloween Kills. And there's also both Allison and Cameron's friend, Oscar. I really do like all these characters from how they were set up and everything. You're also introduced to Allison's other friend, Vicky, played by Virginia Gardner, and you have Dave. I don't know who he's played by, Vicky's boyfriend. For the most part, Danny McBride was able to write all these characters with some bit of charm to them, you know, likability. I'll even give credit, even though I'll throw this in my mixed elements, but I actually come around to liking Karen's husband and also Allison's father, Ray, played by Toby Huss. I actually really came around to him, and yes, this kind of likable goofiness to him. He's kind of like the comic relief of the film, but there are some nice moments with him and the family and everything. I think Toby Huss does a good job portraying this type of character. Also too, another character I've actually come around to, although I think Halloween Kills actually did help with this, and that is Karen, played by Judy Greer. Now, initially when I did my review of Halloween 2018, I thought she was a bit wooden, you know? She was so monotone and everything like that, you know, because she's supposed to be this character who has this traumatic history with, like, in regards to what happened, like how her mother, how Laurie's treated her daughter and everything. And I felt like when I first watched Halloween 2018, I just felt like she didn't really have the kind of persona of someone who was traumatized by past events since she was a child. I didn't really got much of the resentment that she had for Laurie because it was so kind of monotone. But after watching what we see in the end of Halloween 2018 and also seeing Halloween Kills, I know Judy Greer could pull off a good performance, much more emotional performance, and I think she does a good job in certain scenes. Actually, there are certain scenes that I wasn't paying attention to the first time around, where Judy Greer was actually, you know, emoting in some scenes, you know, like during like certain arguments between her and Laurie, some arguments between her and Allison, you know, and then also too, she has shown, you know, she could pull off, you know, being afraid in certain sequences, like showing fear, you know. So I have now come around to Judy Greer as Karen, and I think Judy Greer does a good job in both Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. Again, I'm not sure how much of that was Halloween Kills, you know, making me realize that, but yeah, Judy Greer, pretty good in this, and I do like the character of Karen now this time around. Another character I really dug, and a character I always dug since this film premiered, was Officer Hawkins, portrayed by Will Patton. He is kind of like the officer who, like, he's one of the cops that actually understands what's going on and knows the situation that is at hand, you know, and takes this very seriously. You know, he's wanting to stop Michael from killing other people and everything, and there seems to be hints that both him and Laurie have this kind of past connection with each other. It's never really explored in Halloween 2018. It is a bit further explored with their connection in Halloween Kills. And after watching Halloween Kills, I could see where they were talking about with the connection. And yeah, I think it is actually kind of sweet. And I like the chemistry between Laurie and Officer Hawkins. Also, too, there are two characters that essentially do become just cannon fodder. And those are the true crime podcasters, Aaron and Dana. And there's not much really done with them, but still, I still didn't want to see them die. I do think the actors who played Aaron and Dana do a pretty good job. Again, I don't think anybody did a terrible job in Halloween 2018 in regards to acting wise. And even though I think there could have been more done with those two characters, I didn't want to see them die. I liked them enough to where I didn't want to see them die. Again, I didn't want to see really any characters die in this movie. So they did a good job of me getting to care for these characters. And a lot of that comes with the writing by Danny McBride and a lot of the acting too. And also the direction by David Gordon Green. And speaking of characters, let's talk about the big one here, and that is Michael Myers, the embodiment of pure evil, the one who has the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. This time around, Michael Myers is played by actor/stunt actor James Jude Courtney. Because in this film, just like with Laurie, Michael is aged up because this film takes place 40 years after the original film. So essentially, Michael's around the same age as Laurie. I think Michael was supposed to be in the 60s. When I first heard that, when they announced that was the direction they were going to take with Michael Myers, I kind of laughed at first. I'm like seriously, what are we going to see him do? Try to escape from the old folks home? But no, they didn't do that, and I think they did manage to capture, the fear of Michael Myers. You're supposed to have the sense of fear of him. And yeah, they captured that really good. And James Jude Courtney, man, he does a great job as Myers. Honestly, he's probably my second favorite Michael Myers. And although I don't know, I think depending on how he's handled in Halloween Ends, he could be my favorite Michael Myers. He could top my number one, which is Nick Castle from the original. In fact, there was a lot of moments, even when I first saw the film, to where I couldn't tell if that was James Jude Courtney. In certain moments I couldn't tell if that was James Jude Courtney or if that was Nick Castle. But it turned out 99% of the film, James Jude Courtney was Michael Myers. I think the 1% is there's a scene involving Nick Castle's Michael Myers where Laurie Strode is ends up at this house after Michael had killed the babysitter, and she sees him for the first time in 40 years, and she sees him from the lawn, up the window, and then you see Michael through a mirror. And Michael does that classic head tilt, so that was Nick Castle's contribution to the role in Halloween 2018. Also, Nick Castle did provide the breathing sound effects for Michael Myers, so that was his contribution to playing the shape in Halloween 2018. But the majority of Michael Myers was James Jude Courtney, and I really did buy that at the very least some moments was Nick Castle, and that's because of how well James Jude Courtney was able to recapture the performance of Nick Castle, actually. Honestly, he did such a good job, actually, especially for coming from somebody who has tried to recapture the performance of Nick Castle as Michael Myers. Also, too, another positive I would like to say is I really dug the cinematography of Halloween 2018. Now, at first I didn't really, because I could have used a lot more. My initial complaints were, and still the case, but it's no longer the case, but my initial complaints were I wanted to see a bit more of the blue tint lighting for the night scenes like you saw in the original Halloween. But I did, while watching it on my 4K TV on Blu-ray, I did notice there was a lot of lighting that was a lot of blue lighting in certain scenes, both inside, both in interiors and exteriors. And most of the blue lighting came from Halloween decorations or other kind of decor pieces, and I thought that was handled very well. I do like the cinematography of this film. I dig the lighting. I also dig, speaking of looks, I dig the look of Michael Myers, especially the mask. This is probably the best mask since the original film. It's essentially, they recreated the look of the original Michael Myers mask and aged it up. And I really dug that mask. I would like to get the POTS replica mask for Halloween 2018 at some point, which I'll probably, if I do get more masks, I'll probably have to build more floating shelves, display more masks, but yeah, I love the look of Michael Myers in this film. Also, too, I really dug the music. So they got John Carpenter back as not only executive producer, but as a co-composer. He's the main composer, but he's also composed the music alongside his son Cody Carpenter and his godson Daniel Davies. In fact, I even have the soundtrack CD for Halloween 2018, and I love the music in Halloween 2018. I'd say my favorite tracks of Halloween 2018 that John and his son and godson did is I like the recomposition of the Halloween theme during the opening credits. I also like the kind of haunting rendition of Laurie Strode's theme. Like the track called The Shape Returns, which is during the scene where Michael Myers is going door to door, literally killing just a bunch of random people. By the way, that is my favorite, still my favorite scene out of the entire movie. It is a complete one-shot take scene, and the way it's handled is flawless. So much, I love it so much so that I was planning on adding a sequence like that, having my take on a sequence like that for my short film Halloween: The Kills of Michael Myers. Because of the pandemic and because of the fact that one of my actors did move, I wasn't able to really do that. There was a difference of what I wanted to do, but couldn't do it because of those two things. So maybe in a different, maybe in the next short film I do, I will do that one-shot take scene. But yeah, I really love that sequence. I could rewatch that sequence all the time and it never gets old. It's just a perfect sequence in my opinion. Also too, I also dug the track, The Shape Hunts Allison, and it's during the scene where Michael Myers hunts down Allison or chases her down. But my only thing is, it was kind of a short sequence. You know, I wish it could have been used for a longer sequence, because man, that track, it is awesome. I also dig the new rendition of the Shaped Stalks theme, where it's like dun 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 dun. I like the new rendition of that. So yeah, I really dug the music in Halloween 2018. Oh, also too, I also do like the final act of this film for the most part. I do have some problems with it, but I do like what was quote-unquote the final confrontation between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. I really do enjoy that. I love Laurie's death house that she has built for Michael and everything, and I love the kind of suspense that those sequences showed. You know, there's a lot of times where it's like Laurie searching the house for Michael, no music whatsoever. It's just so tension filled, and it's just like you don't know where Michael is. She doesn't know where Michael is. All we know is that he is in the house somewhere, but we don't know where he is. And then, so the suspense is still really good. And yeah, I really dug that final sequence. I also especially like how eventually both Karen and Allison join in on the action, fighting off against Myers. And I even like how it kind of has a homage to the original Halloween 2, where they eventually trap Myers in the house and burn him alive. It's essentially a homage to the ending of the original Halloween 2, where Dr. Loomis ends up blowing both himself up and Michael up. And Michael Myers is engulfed in flames. So yeah, I really do dig that.
Goodbye, Michael.
I also like the music it plays during that sequence called The Shape Burns. Now, honestly, that's about it for my positives. Now let's move on to some of the things I'm rather mixed on. While I do like the character of Ray this time around, I do think that he was kind of, in a sense, kind of a pointless character. He didn't necessarily, because he was there, he was just essentially there as cannon fodder, and when he does die, there's no, kind of a moment in Halloween 2018 where Karen and Allison kind of mourn the loss of not only Allison's father, but also Karen's husband. You know, there's not a moment of that in Halloween 2018, although they do acknowledge that in Halloween Kills, and there are moments in Halloween Kills where, early on, where both Karen and Allison mourn the loss of Ray, so I like the fact that Halloween Kills did address that. So, but it's not addressed in Halloween 2018. So, and the other mixed thing I would like to get into is that of the character of Dr. Sartain, who is essentially, this movie's version of Dr. Loomis. Even Laurie Strode, when she meets Dr. Sartain, is like, "You're the new Loomis." It's like, which he was a student of Dr. Loomis and has taken over the care of Michael Myers. At first, I did not mind Dr. Sartain, and I didn't mind the actor's performance as Dr. Sartain. But what they do with him, okay, so the twist is that Dr. Sartain was the one who eventually helped Myers escape. He helped the bunch of mental patients escape, and he just wants to, he's so obsessed with Myers that he wants to know what it feels like to kill, how does something like that, a crime like that affect Michael Myers, and is so obsessed with him that he thinks that Michael does care, Michael is affected by Laurie in any kind of way, to a point where he tries to set up a reunion between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, and is just wanting to study the essence of pure evil. And I just didn't really care for that, especially since too they also killed off a favorite, a character that I really dug, Officer Hawkins, which thankfully Halloween Kills showed that he didn't die. So, and he's in Halloween, so that is good. But when I first saw this, I was like, what? And it's just so ridiculous, and it essentially goes nowhere. This twist goes nowhere. All this twist really does is, because here's the thing, because one of the most controversial things about this film is that they had it to where they essentially ignored all the sequels after the original, so even ignored Halloween 2, because even at least Halloween H2O, when it ignored a few of the sequels, it did choose to acknowledge the events of the original Halloween 2, which is a fan favorite sequel. It's not my favorite sequel, by the way. I agree with John Carpenter on a lot of that, but so they needed to find a way to where, they could have this ultimate confrontation with Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, because at this point, Michael Myers and Laurie Strode aren't brother and sister. There's no more of this, thing of Michael Myers is after his family, which is something that the rest of the films in the franchise focus on heavily. And so there's honestly no real reason for Michael to be going after Laurie at this point. So, and so they had to think of a way to bring Michael Myers to Laurie's death house so that they could have this ultimate confrontation, and that's where the Dr. Sartain twist comes into play. And honestly, I think it was just kind of lazily done. They don't even really do anything with the Dr. Sartain twist, and in fact, after that whole twist is revealed, Michael kills him. Michael kills Dr. Sartain, and in a cool effect, I will admit, where Michael just squishes, stomps on his head and just, yeah, it's a cool effect, but yeah, I just wish more was done with Dr. Sartain in that regard, so it wasn't, because at the end of the day, Dr. Sartain was really only there, and that twist was only really there, so that they could get Michael from point A to point B, so that there could be this confrontation between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. And I just didn't like that. I think a simpler way they could have done it, and one that would make more sense, is And honestly, I thought they were going to do this in the marketing for how, like, from what they showed with the marketing of Halloween 2018, is that it would have been kind of a twist on, instead of Michael hunting Laurie down, this time it'll be Laurie hunting Michael down. She would try to search for Myers and that, and then maybe she could try to lure Michael to her death house, and that's how they have that confrontation, you know. And then eventually the ending where she traps Myers in the basement and sets her house ablaze. You know, I would have honestly preferred something like that than what they did. Not only did I not like what they did essentially to the character of Dr. Sartain, but honestly the twist is just like, it's just a nothing twist that, you know, and even if they were to go this twist, keep Dr. Sartain alive, because, I mean, think about it, they could have utilized him in Halloween Kills, and therefore, Dr. Sartain would have been an additional threat for Haddonfield. Now, I'm not going to say he's going around and kill people with a knife or anything like that, but he would have been a much more kind of much more kind of like pulling the strings type of threat, you know. They could have easily done that if they were to go with this twist, but this twist, again, like I said, is essentially was only really there to get Michael Myers and Laurie Strode together so that they could fight. And I wish they could have done a better job with that than what they ended up doing. But honestly, for me, I don't have anything I really hate in this movie, so let's move on to my rating. And my final rating for Halloween 2018 is going to be a 4 out of 5 stars. I honestly really enjoyed this movie, despite some problems here and there. You know, I've actually come around to it more so. Now, one of the things I mentioned before in my previous videos is that Halloween 2018 was a film that the more times I watched it, the more problems I noticed. But this time around was different, and I don't know why. I think in my mind, I just had a different mindset going into Halloween 2018. I actually found more things I actually did enjoy with this film, so whenever I do my ranking after Halloween Ends drops and I do my review, this might actually be bumped a bit higher on my ranking than initially. So I thought Blumhouse did a great job with this. I thought David Gordon Green and Danny McBride did an amazing job. John Carpenter, Cody Carpenter, and Daniel Davies did an amazing job with the music, and all the actors did a really good job. And honestly, I thought this was a great return of, you know, Michael Myers, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, you decide. There was a lot of production issues with trying to get a new Halloween film after Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 back in 2009. They did toy around with doing, like, they were going to do a sequel to Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That didn't happen. It was going to be a 3D sequel to Halloween 3D. Of course, that didn't happen. Then back in around 2015 or whatever, there was going to be a new Halloween film that was meant to be a direct continuation of the original Halloween 2 called Halloween Returns. It was going to be written and directed by the same people who wrote and directed the couple of Saw films, Saw 4 through Saw 3D, and also they wrote and directed the films like the Collector franchise, like the Collector duology, Piranha, Double D, stuff like that. And then that didn't end up happening. And then this film, Halloween 2018, David Gordon Green's Halloween, was announced and ended up coming to fruition. So it was kind of a long struggle trying to get a new Halloween film between 2009 and 2018. So roughly about 10 years after Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, we got another installment, and it reinvigorated the franchise. And then, you know, now we got 2 more movies, Halloween Kills, which I did review, which you could check my review out. I'll post a link to my review in the description box below. Anyway, tell me in the comments down below, what did you guys think of Halloween 2018, and have your thoughts changed on it, or just like with me? Were you one of those people who noticed the problems first when you first watched it, or did you and God go over it and like one of those things where you noticed the problems upon further rewatches? Or I really want to know your guys' thoughts on this film, and if Halloween Kills changed your thoughts on it or whatever. So tell me in the comments down below and gameplay nice. I want to have an actual discussion here. I don't want any of that toxic bullshit in the comments. I will delete those kind of comments down. Like, I will delete those comments as well if I see any of them. So again, play nice. Also too, if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And thank you guys for watching. And happy Halloween, Michael.